Welcome to CPG Vibes. No script, just chat. We talk all things food and beverage and so much more. Feel our vibe and search for CPG Vibes on Apple Podcast or Spotify, and make sure to give us a 5-star review. If you'd like to sponsor our show with your product or service or be a guest, email us at cpgvibes100@gmail.com. Now your hosts, me, Alex Baer with Genius Juice, and Wade Yenny. All right, welcome to episode 96. Love that number of CPG Vibes. We're here on a beautiful Friday, because that's what we do. We're here on Friday, and we are a week and a half away from Christmas. We're knee deep in Hanukkah right now. I think we're I gotta check my records, but we're at least, and I believe we're in Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We're actually done, or it's either the final night or done with Hanukkah. So Wade, how you doing?
I'm doing good. It's been a hectic week, but still digging out from being in California and failing miserably, I might add. But I'm doing well. This the weather's been a little chilly this week. I think I mentioned last week. Maybe I did. We actually went back to Ohio last weekend for Renee's family Christmas, and I was out of the office on Monday, but it was kind of cool coming back through the mountains in West Virginia. We were able to see a little bit of snow in West Virginia. So that was kind of cool. That was as close, hopefully, as we get to a white Christmas. I'm optimistic we're not going to see any snow in North Carolina, but we'll see.
Yeah, we're definitely not going to see any snow here in Southern California. I think the closest, unless you go to like Big Bear,
the mountains, you could go to the mountains, right?
The mountains, but as far as the beach cities, the only snow you really see is they had a Santa Claus event right near the pier in Redondo Beach where they put some I call it faux snow on the ground, which is not really that fun, and it gets really slippery for the kids. So that's the closest that we came. So a couple laundry list items we're just going to mention here as we have some comments that are starting to roll in. Number one, we will have a show next week, December 22nd, 2023. So there was a lot of debate. Wade and I deliberated on it for at least, I think, a week or so. We were really trying to figure this out. No, we actually decided within 45 seconds right before airing. We're like, should we have a show next week? Yeah, sure. Why not? Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, why not? There some people will still be hanging out. So we're going to have a show 3 days before Christmas. And then December 29th, there will not be a show. We're going to take that week off and then come back strong in the new year. And we are basically on the precipice of celebrating our 2-year anniversary for CPG Vibes. So that's real cool. That went by so freaking fast. I know people say that, but man, that was fast. 2 years.
It really did. And I see Gavin's asking about the plan for 100. And I don't know, we might have to deliberate on that slightly more than we did about having a
first.
Show
are we going to make it to 100? That's the first thing. Yeah.
Well, let's hope so. But wait, nothing cemented yet, but I'm sure we can come up with something, right?
Yeah. It's one of those things where sometimes, the no script, just chat and planning things at the last second doesn't really help us, right, when planning out for 100. So we are planning a few episodes early. We're in the works right now to either do a very special segment, and then we're also working on bringing a very special guest. They haven't confirmed yet, but we're in talks right now. Someone that we love that could potentially be on the show, but we'll figure something out, and it'll be a lot of fun. So the other laundry list item is make sure to give us 5 stars. Please, 5 stars. I just hit my own headphone. 5 stars, please, because we're at 123, I believe, right now. I think we're still at 123.
I haven't checked it in a few days. But
yeah, I actually have on speed dial right here under podcasts. I have it bookmarked, and it looks like we're at 123. 123. So Got to get to 150 people. So please tell your friends, tell your family, post about it on LinkedIn.
Steal your kids' phones.
Steal your kids' phones, steal a stranger's phone from a Starbucks. Because once we get to 164, we'll be, by rating, the #1 CPG podcast in the country. We'll be more than Startup CPG, more than BevNet, which we do love. But we love them, but we're also competing with them.
It's friendly competition.
Friendly competition.
And remember, our goal is to stay ahead of the episode count, and we're getting dangerously close to that, right? I mean, we're at 123, we're 96, so we need to keep that We need to keep that gap a little wider.
Yeah, I'm starting to get a little nervous. Like it's kind of a little tickling nervous thing in my head. So, yes. And then if you would like to sponsor our episode, we've signed on a few new sponsors, which is great. So thank you so much for sponsoring our show to keep the lights on. Southern California, we got the sun, but Wade over there's got it. You're using artificial lighting. So, so make sure, please, if you want to sponsor, cpgvibes100@gmail.com, and it's a starting rate of $350. We'll mention you in the beginning, the middle, and the end. And if you want to, you can also come on the show for a few minutes and talk about your service or your product. Gets out to a bunch of people on here live, gets out to more people on Apple Podcast. So it's all fine and dandy, like John Candy. So, and just on that note, our sponsor for this week is Simply Depot, and they're basically a platform created by a CPG entrepreneur for CPG entrepreneurs. It's a wholesale and field execution management platform that helps you run your business A to Z. So if you are a company or a brand, you're a VP of sales, Gavin Conkle, or an owner, you can use the service, but you can use the software. It's cutting edge. You can really organize everything under the sun for your wholesale business, selling to all these different outlets across the country, different categories, different revenue streams. So make sure we'll give you the information for Simply Depot. There it is, simplydepot.com. And also they're partnered with Ginger Shots, GNGR Shots, which is a well. And so that's also part of the sponsorship. So we'll mention it again as we go. Also, if you'd like to be a guest, sucks for you because we're not bringing on as many guests, to be honest. We're bringing on some, but not as many. We're focusing more on the community and doing some events that just give back to CPG. And those are in the works for 2024. So yeah, big news that just hit the wire today. Big news. You want to tell, or should I tell them?
You tell them. You tell them.
If they don't already know. So Chobani acquired La Colombe, and there's also a minority stake from Dr. Pepper Keurig. I'm not sure how that was organized. I think Dr. Pepper Keurig, I think they invested in Chobani or La Colombe. There's some connection there with that, which I don't know the details. But Chobani acquired La Colombe for $900 million, and that went through today.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
it's amazing. His and I'm familiar with La Colombe, but from a revenue standpoint, I didn't read all the recaps and whatnot that came through aside from the headline. What kind of revenue are they doing?
I have no idea. I haven't really looked it up. I mean, I would imagine for that type of valuation, they're profitable. They also they have storefronts. They have La Colombe storefronts. There's added brand value there.
According to my friend, you might know, Google, it says La Colombe's coffee roasters annual revenue is, how much do you think, if you're guessing?
I would think it's between 300 and 400 million.
According to Google, it's 94 million.
That's it? 94 million.
That's what it says.
So that's a 10x acquisition. That seems off to me. I don't know.
No, I was going to say that, and I don't know how old that is. Okay, I'm going deeper into Google now. Now I see further down 203 million. I'm looking to see if I see anything in the release. Either way,
and that might be last year, right? Like because that's the last full fiscal year. But I imagine it's probably closer to 250, 300 at a minimum. So it's like a 3x multiple or something like that. And it must be profitable. And
Have to be, right?
and then then the owner, right? I remember his last name, which is Carmichael, and his first name. Let's see if we can look it up here. Who is La Colombe owned by? It's funny, they already updated on Google that Chobani owns La Colombe now. I'm trying to see who the CEO is. Todd Carmichael, that's his name. So he is the original founder of La Colombe, and congratulations to Todd. So these cases obviously are very rare, and I mean the big thing is he's been running this business. It looks like at least since the early 2000s, if not the 90s, I believe. So I need to look up the full story here because we don't do any prep for the show.
They did raise previously
1994.
Previously, they'd raised over 300 million over 3 rounds of funding. So
it's crazy.
Pretty crazy. It's crazy.
They basically raised more money than what their annual revenue is. So
it's amazing.
So that means, that tells you it takes a lot of money to make something successful. But, Todd built it from the ground up from 1994. He probably owns enough of the company where he at least earned 100 million, I would imagine. So not too bad of a trade-off, right? 30 years of your life for over 100 million. Not bad.
Not bad.
Yeah.
It's an interesting category for Chobani to get into. It's the focus, especially with the retail perspective, their shops and whatnot. And if you look at the cold brew aspect, obviously they have some shelf stable things, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays into. First thing that comes to my mind is some co-branding opportunities with coffee flavored yogurt and drinkables and things like that. But it's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out.
Yeah, for sure. One other thing, just on the financial side, is it looks like Hamdi Ilukawa, right, who is the founder of Chobani, purchased a share of the company, somewhat significant. He bought it from private equity, good partners, to gain his stake. And he also helped the company raise $28.5 million in 2015. And I do remember somewhere around 2015 or 16 is when they launched their, the RTD, the latte, right? The one that's the famous one now that's in the can. So 6-7 years ago, they launched that. They really scaled their business. Yeah, and it's a good question, Wade, is how is this going to really shake out? Is there going to be yogurt involved? I feel it's going to be just continuing to grow La Colombe how they're already growing and just expanding it. But I think I think what's more important is the distribution, right? So where Chobani's distributed, right? All the gas stations, all the convenience stores, natural stores, because Chobani started in natural, being one of the highest end yogurts at the time when they came out. I think just Chobani is going to piggyback that entire thing. And, yogurt, where Chobani is, it's like in grab and go areas across the country, typically in open face coolers and convenience stores, 7-Elevens, Chobani's in an open face cooler. So I think La Colombe will follow suit and get into all those stores. So I think they're probably profitable. They have storefronts. So I think it's probably a good deal for them. And what's cool too is that Chobani, already invested in them, right? I like those types of partnerships where they worked together 8 years ago, right? He took a minority stake, helped them raise money, built a relationship over many years, and they must have a lot of synergies, both in distribution and innovation. And they like each other a lot, and they love working with each other. And then they got married, right? So it's kind of like they were living with each other in an apartment in New York for 7 years, and they got along, and now they got married.
And now they got a penthouse, right?
Now they got a penthouse.
Yeah, they went from a studio to a penthouse
from Brooklyn.
Yeah, you mentioned they're probably profitable at that kind of valuation. I would hope they are indeed profitable, and very much so at that for $900 million. I think I don't think this is a baseball deal where that money's going to get deferred for 10 years.
Yeah, what's his name? The Dodgers guy.
Ohtani, yeah.
Ohtani. Yeah. It's deferred for 10 years, I believe, right? He got a small amount, and then in 10 years he gets like a lump sum balloon amount.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting way to structure the deal. With him, does he have to hit some kind of goal or benchmark, or is he just going to get paid?
I haven't seen that. I'm sure he's going to. He has to get paid simply because this is the virtually polar opposite of most contracts right now, where a large percentage of the contract is guaranteed up front, and this is kind of the other way. So I'm sure he's getting it guaranteed on the back end. Has to be.
Yep,
So
definitely. Let's do some shout outs here because we haven't done that. We're 20 minutes in right now. So some good shout outs here. We have Dima Mararu with Guru Energy, right? So he's we're talking about the acquisition. We have let's see, John. Wow, John V. It's called John V. He loves the ginger shots. We have Stephanie Hui saying it's Todd Carmichael. And yeah, we have a couple LinkedIn users, which is Scott
one
Hardman. Scott Hardman, right?
one is Scott and one is Derek.
There we go. They both have red hair, just
Yeah.
coincidentally, right?
Yeah.
So
And I coincidentally, I also had a conversation with Derek earlier today. We caught up via Microsoft Teams, Zoom, whatever it was, and
oh, cool.
it's been a while since had an opportunity to chat with him, so it was good to reconnect and talk a little bit of shop and see what he's up to. So glad he's able to join us here now.
Yeah, I'm even more impressed that you guys were able to pull off a video meeting on Microsoft Teams. It's just like the most counterintuitive software, I guess. Is it? So this was in Office, right? I imagine.
No, it was just like we are. It was just like we are.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's funny because switching back and forth between Zoom, Teams, Google Meet, it's have to kind of refamiliarize yourself with each one of them every time you use it, because the app of choice for us is Zoom, but Teams is becoming more predominant. I think that we're probably going to make a move to that before long. So
right.
See.
Yeah, I think, Teams is obviously, I think, more like in the corporate setting because Microsoft is the baseline for all the servers and the software, right? So I have some clients that, when they go in to a video meeting, they're Microsoft Teams. But to me, the easiest one to use is Google Meet, like by far. Like everyone has a Google account. You can start instant meetings. You can start you book a meeting and it automatically goes into your Gmail calendar. And what I like about it is there's no host. It automatically, people just enter, and it makes it a lot easier. With Zoom, there's always a problem where there's 4 people waiting and then the host is, on the toilet or something like that, finishing their business.
Waiting to let people in the lobby and all that stuff. So,
yeah, exactly.
We have a couple other people that have joined in, probably talking about the conference calls, and then Xavier here is a first time joiner, so we have to make sure we shout him out.
Nice. First time president of Brand X, Hispanic CPG shopper marketing agency. That's interesting. No script, just chat about the Hispanic market, what they're buying, what stores they go to. There's been a lot of crossover into natural stores, right? And I've seen a lot more Hispanic-based products in natural stores. But out here in LA, the big one is Northgate. I don't know if you remember them when you're out here.
Yep.
So Northgate, like you go in there and they have like kombucha and koya and organic coconut water, refrigerated. They have Harmless Harvest. So it seems like Northgate is really kind of catering to the higher end kind of products in their stores. And then there's El Super. That's the other big one here. But I think El Super is still kind of behind. They have a lot of conventional, deep conventional products, right? So interesting. Okay, well, Xavier, thanks for popping on, and Julie Elder as well. It's so true about the meeting platforms. So a couple other things too. We're going to get into category reviews, which is Wade's specialty.
Yeah.
Right. Especially,
I was going to say, let's just say that I have some history with them. I don't do them as so much now, but yeah, definitely have some history there.
Yes. And then a couple other just quick things to mention, because that's a longer topic, is if you're in LA, new Northgate and Costa Mesa is a must visit. Okay. See, and Northgate is starting to open in even higher end areas. Typically they're in kind of the middle income areas and some lower income, but now they're getting into the higher income areas, which is awesome. So I'm glad to see they're on that train of more natural products and healthier products. Naturally LA. I think a lot of people are already, raise your hand if you're in any Naturally Network um, chapter. Naturally LA, we're starting a Slack channel because I'm on the advisory board of Naturally LA. So if you're in LA and you'd like to join the Naturally LA Slack channel to network with other CPG professionals in Los Angeles, make sure to just DM me on LinkedIn. And then also just check their website for events. So make sure to check that out. The other thing is Coconut Cult got in the fresh time. I saw that. That was cool. So congratulations to Ari. So going back to it, let's talk about stop being humble AF. Yeah,
Only Gavin. Only Gavin.
Call you out on that. So let's talk about category reviews, which are starting. They're going to be coming into the new year. Typically, there's not a lot happening in December, right? Because of all the holiday madness, right?
Yeah, typically, the reviews as a whole, let's backpedal a little bit. So
Sure.
the reset portion of that actually slows down, meaning you're not doing a lot of shelf moves and things like that in November, December. You're bringing in some seasonal merchandise, and think of it, dairy sets and things like that, where you have seasonal yogurt flavors, ice cream, frozen, things like that, where you're rotating flavors in and out. Those things are happening, but from a grocery perspective, you're not doing a lot of moves, but you probably are you are starting to look at reviews for 2024. So I think we'll be looking at the first moves probably in mid-January. Will be the first ones that actually, from an execution standpoint, and then it'll be full speed ahead after that. So what I always say, and I haven't posted anything about category reviews in a while on my LinkedIn, but I would say, like, if you're a brand, you should have those review schedules in your hands now. I mean, you should, you're out into the first, if not second quarter, is from an execution standpoint, as far as things being on the shelf. You should have those review schedules in your hands. You should know your target accounts, when they're reviewing categories, when the resets are happening, when the appointments are, and all those things. So if you don't have that in your hands, you want to be knocking on those doors really, really fast, because a lot of people on the retail side do take time off these last 2 weeks of the year, because it is typically a slow time of year for the support staff and offices and things like that. But kind of the opposite of the retail perspective of the brick and mortar and actually in store. But you want to get after it, because the longer you wait, the harder it's going to be to get into, whether it's a meeting or hitting a schedule, hitting a timeline. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, I have a question, Wade, and we've kind of broached this topic a little bit before, is like the founder reaching out to the category manager, the buyer, the purchasing manager versus a broker. And I know there's different size retailers, but let's just say for, the kind of the mid size, right? Like we're talking 25 stores and up, 25 stores and up, all the way up to 2, 3, 400 stores, maybe even 500 stores, which is the larger ones, but still like natural stores and things of that nature. The founder reaching out versus a broker, right? I know for Target and Costco, you want to use a broker because they're just so large and it's more complicated, the rollout, the promotions, all that stuff. But what do you think? I mean, there's pros and cons. Like,
Yeah.
I love reaching out as a founder to the buyer, but then like with a broker, you're more likely to get in. But if the broker is presenting, it doesn't have the same passion as a founder presenting. So like, what are your opinions there?
There's pros and cons, and I think it really just depends on the specific account. The smaller ones, I think, more than likely are probably more receptive to hearing directly from founders, because they're kind of used to that. The smaller accounts. But when you get larger, I think that's where that relationship piece with the broker or someone, maybe it's a second, third party, introduction, through a mutual connection or something like that. I think that's where that relationship becomes so much more important, because, to your point, the odds of getting, the meeting are going to more than likely be better odds if you go the broker route. And the best case scenario, I think, is to get the meeting with the broker and have hopefully be able to piggyback on that meeting with the founder, right? So get the meeting on the calendar with the broker. I'm assuming it's virtual. Most of them are. That the founder can kind of jump in there and share a little bit of that passion. I think that's the ideal situation if you can get it. So, we've had conversations. We've had shows. I think entire shows probably about the pitch aspect and all those things, but and also the mentality of some brokers don't want founders there. You know what I mean? So it's almost like this territorial thing, right? Where and then you also have the if it's a category that's a large category, the broker might represent multiple brands within the category. So there could be some conflicts there, and they're just throwing a bunch of stuff up against the wall, hoping something sticks. So so I'm looking at some of the questions coming in. So how many buyers are even hosting meetings anymore?
Yeah,
like I said, most of them are.
One.
I was going to say most of them are virtual, at least
Yeah.
current state. What I'm seeing from my end. And believe me, when we do category reviews, the meetings are happening hot and heavy. There's a lot of them going on. But Lisa's comment about buyers rather meeting founders, I think it really just depends. Like I said, you think of it from a cold call connection. Like if you're LinkedIn, how many times a week do you get some kind of solicitation about a service or provider of something that you have no interest? It doesn't even pertain to your business, right? It can kind of fall that way with a buyer. I mean, they're used to especially with the larger chains. I think that's what we're talking about, right? The 20, 30 plus up stores. When you think about it, their email boxes, mine included, are flooded, right? So you're going to be more, in my mind, more receptive to responding to someone and someone that you have a built-in relationship with, because those brokers are preparing contracts, promotions, things of that nature. As then a cold call from someone, I just see a name that I've never heard from before. Well, I might open that email, I might not, or it's going to be, from a priority standpoint, it's going to be further down the list. So I think that's where you really have to kind of choose your spots pretty wisely.
Yeah. When I think back, to how I got a majority of my meetings, where it was just the founder, like, this is pre-pandemic, flying in, or even during the pandemic, via video, was really me just meeting them somewhere face to face. Number one, whether it was a trade show, fancy food show, Expo West, or just getting a really warm intro, which is more rare. But like, the buyer's really good friends with a brand that's doing extremely well, and that brand owner knows me, and they say, hey, you should check this out.
Exactly.
Comes with a risk, a little, there's a small risk, not a big risk, but a small risk for the brand referring, because if it doesn't work out, it doesn't really look good for that brand. But I was able to get a tremendous amount of meetings that way versus just reaching out with an email. And usually if I reached out by email, I would do a few emails, and that could actually upset the buyer, which we've talked about before.
Right.
So,
well, and I was going to say, speaking from personal experience and recent personal experience, I was at the Nosh event, openly and gladly shared my email information with anybody that inquired, and I'm still playing. It's part of it being out of the office and dealing with normal volume of email. Part of it's the increased volume with being at the trade show and shaking a lot of hands, and but I'm still playing catch up, trying to get back to everybody that's got back to me, both on my inbox, work-wise email, as well as my DMs here on LinkedIn. It's I'm trying to whittle some off each day, but it's been an uphill battle, and that's me sharing my email and saying, yeah, contact me, whatever. It's tough. So if you're going that cold route without that intermediary, that introduction or common connection, something of that sort, it's even that much more complicated, because we talk about it all the time, but when you talk about you use the word buyer, whether it's category manager, director, whatever the title is, right? this is just one facet of what they do in their roles, right? I mean,
Mhm.
they've got internal meetings, they've got promotions, they have ads, they have all these different hats that they wear on any given day, store support, things of that nature. So this is just a small, albeit important part of what they do, and it's important that you realize that. So
Exactly. Yeah, and that's one thing that as a brand owner to have that understanding about a buyer is a lot when you're new in the business, you just think, oh, the buyer, all they do is they just do category reviews and they do discontinuations and they receive promotions and pass it off maybe to a buyer's assistant. They do, and Gavin touched on this, Gavin Conkle, because he used to be like very high up at Earth Fair, right? And
mhm.
as basically a buyer, right? More center store.
Right.
So
VP.
yeah,
Yep.
VP, one part
VP.
removed.
Hmm.
That there's so much going on, like between new stores opening, coolers going in, resets, moving things around in the store, things that you have talked about. But from our perspective, like the Genius Juice perspective, or the Cloudwater, right? Gavin Conkle, what he understands as well is that you just got to be very careful and understanding that they have a lot going on, and really only to reach out and to schedule something for the category review. That's also very important because I'm sure you've seen this in your past with Jimbo. I know Jimbo's was more less formal, but you've seen this where people try to meet with you and you're like, I'm not going to meet with you off cycle,
Right.
unless this is, a product doing $1 billion in sales and it's going to be a grand slam for my store, right?
Right.
Off cycle is becoming more and more rare, and even at Whole Foods, right? Like 5 years ago, off cycle, like I would walk in and like I know that for our set, the premium juice set, and functional drink set was typically March and October, right? Those are the two reset months for Whole Foods. And I would come in the middle of summer and see a new item. I'm like,
Hmm.
oh wow, that doesn't happen anymore. Everything's becoming more just more streamlined, simpler. These companies are getting flooded with requests because of the pandemic, emails, video meetings. So you
Right.
got to respect that. The other thing as a brand owner, you got to respect the buyer's time. And I'll get you further. The other thing that is really interesting, and we'll go to some questions here as well, is the broker brand owner dynamic. You know, the way that a broker gets paid is from their relationship, right, with the retailer. So there's a balancing act where the broker wants to close, the deal, right? They want to bring the brand on board, get them in front of the retailer and close the deal. But then the other side is that if the founder, owner, VP of sales develops a very strong relationship, right, from that process with the buyer, a lot of brand owners just drop brokers. That happens, right? They're like, why
Mm.
should I pay 5%? And
Right.
that's really the broker's dilemma, which, I have friends that are brokers. They've talked about is once you close once you close the deal and you get the brand in, how do you retain that brand for a long period of time? And I think like the best way is you're adding value by keeping the brand in there with a
Yep.
relationship. But also, I think if you have innovation, new SKUs coming out, new lines coming out, you can get back in front of the buyer more easily. So there's a
Mm.
balancing act because there's been smaller brokers I've spoken to where they get them into a huge retailer, like 300-400 stores, and then after 3 months, 6 months, they get dropped by the brand. And usually, not to ramble, but the broker has like a clause that says you can't drop me for 90 days. There's a 90-day
Right.
grace period. But even then, like 90 days is not a lot. And then they get dropped. And now they're going back out and trying to find new brands. So it's a constant grind of finding new brands. And so I think the ones that are really winning are these large brokerages, right? Like we've talked about this, like, the small guys, both as a brand owner or anything else, we're getting squeezed this year.
Right.
Expenses are up, brands have less money. But when you start looking at national partnerships like Perfect Bar, right, being partnered with Presence, right, or Koya being partnered with Presence, it's very unlikely that Koya or any of these big brands that have a lot of money are going to drop a national broker. the national broker, you can't even, you can't imagine how much they are managing, across
Right.
stores and resets and category reviews. It's a lot to keep track of.
Yeah, I'll answer Gavin's question, or at least my perspective
Sure.
on it. Then I'll piggyback a little bit on what you just talked about. So, I think my feeling is it's still aggressive. And I know, Alex, you talked a little bit about the off cycle piece, but I think speaking for myself, I think we're looking for ways that we can be more nimble and consider things off cycle. But I say that with an asterisk, simply because the work you do when you're a larger retailer, and in the reviewing the data and the reset work and all those things, that the sell down of existing product, the cutting into the new product, all that stuff. I mean, it is from start to finish pushing almost 6 months, from the review period till on shelf execution. So you don't want to undermine that work, but at the same time, you also don't want to, in using your words, you don't want to close your eyes and ears to a grand slam and have to wait, potentially call it 18 months, right? By the time you go through the review period, the 6 months, etc. So I think it's a balance of both. And I think I've used this analogy before, baseball, not necessarily a grand slam, but a baseball analogy, where that I think a good category manager, or buyer, whatever you want to call them, is receptive to the right items off cycle if they are quote unquote home runs. Meaning, that's where I fall back on that broker relationship, right? That if you're a brand and you're calling on a broker, or you're working with a broker and you're trying to get in off cycle, the broker has to kind of vet those items to help with that relationship with the retailer, and just be honest and say, hey, I've got this off cycle. Can we either chat about? But I push back and say, if it's a home run, let's talk. But if it's a single, a double, or a strikeout,
Let's wait for the category review.
wait for the review, and that's where that relationship comes into play. That I am counting on that relationship with that broker, and if it's someone I trust, I know they're going to vet that for me. But if it's someone that so I think there's a little bit of give and take there as far as that goes. But as far as what you were talking about with the brokers and the growing and scaling and all those things, I think I liken it to my days in conventional. Right, you'd see oftentimes it's a little different than Naturals channel that we're talking. Most of the time we talk about specialty. You would see items introduced in a KeHE or a Unify, right, and they would become, you bring them in. They were in the conventional world, they're called specialty items, right? And so you start doing business with KeHE or Unify, and then in time, a lot of those brands or items would scale and come into the conventional warehouse. And it's kind of the same thing that you're talking about with the brokers, right? You start small with a local or regional broker, and as you scale and you become nationwide, you have to look for nationwide presence. And it's natural, because a smaller regional broker, let's just where I do in the Southeast, where I do business, probably isn't going to be able to help you much on the West Coast unless they have some really, really solid relationships. So I don't see a lot of brands dropping national brokers like you talked about. You do see switches. Oftentimes they'll be going from national broker A to national broker B or something like that. In the occasions that they do drop, sometimes what you'll see is they've determined or decided that they're going to go with their own sales force. Whether they've had it and want to scale it up, their internal sales force, or maybe they want to, they were bootstrapped to begin with and they're using the broker network, and now they've grown a little bit, that they want to, expand their business and kind of go up with regards to an internal sales force. They've made enough money, they've become profitable or something like that, that now we're going to have our own sales team. So I see that happen sometimes, but I still see, even in those cases, sometimes it's the internal salespeople making the new item calls, the annual reviews, and things like that, and it's the broker handling the work at shelf and or the promotional contracts and things like that.
Exactly. And I think, like, as a brand owner, you also have to look at the structure of the broker agreements and what makes the most sense to you. Another thing that's a struggle for brokers, well, for both sides, but for brokers is that, if they go after smaller brands, they don't really have that level of money to just pay the broker 1,000 a month, 500 a month, a retainer every month, with the hopes that they'll eventually get them an account, which I'm sure they will over time. So a lot of these smaller brands are like, well, I can't afford to pay you a retainer, so why don't I pay you once you close business for me? And now the broker is working because the review cycles are just long. They've gotten longer and longer. A lot of retailers are once a year, some are
Mhm.
twice a year. The very small ones are just kind of ad hoc as needed. So like that's another thing that really hurts smaller regional brokers is they are having more and more trouble getting retainers. The big national brokers, they're getting 5% of all the business under the sun, right?
Right. Right.
And the big brands can afford that. So they're flush, like I wouldn't say flush, but there's money coming in for them to cover their expenses. And then the small guys, the Sean Bergs of the world and others that are wanting to grow their business, it makes it it makes it a harder environment. So
Well, you have to look at it. You look at it from a smaller broker standpoint. I mean, you, what other business can you expect someone to work and invest their time and energy and money, when you talk about travel and whatnot, into working without getting paid of some kind? You don't take your car to a mechanic and without expecting to pay him, right? And he's going to work on it,
mhm,
and
exactly.
and the parts and all those things that go with it. And I think it's you bring up a good point, simply because it's like, so you want them to present your product, work on a deck, uh, do all those things
Fly
that
around, if
yes,
they need to go meet in person,
drive,
expenses.
fly, whatever it
Yeah,
is. It's
yeah,
gas, it's a plane ticket, it's a hotel room, whatever it is.
yeah,
Without having some kind of income
yep.
coming from you, I mean, it's tough. It's tough. I mean, I see it both ways, but and Dylan here brought up a good point about the impatience with some
A
of those
lot of
emerging
brands.
brands.
Yeah,
I think a lot of it is education or lack of. And that's not slighting anybody. It's just simply, that's my personal feeling, is that so many times they go uh, from a farmer's market atmosphere, or maybe a direct store delivery where they're delivering product themselves to a retailer, to wanting to scale, and they expect the same results as that transaction at a farmer's market, or when they go to a store and go to the back door and deliver themselves. It's not the same. And I think it's important that we as a community, including whether you're a independent broker or uh, you know a fractional person of some kind, to educate those people that, hey, this is the way it works, especially as you're looking at larger retailers, right? I mean, the larger you get, the more difficult it becomes to, as Alex mentioned, the review cycle, the duration of it, and all those things. It's not as simple as a handshake over a cup of coffee and bring the product to the back door. It just doesn't work that way.
yeah, exactly. So I think like spot on. I think ultimately we have questions we're going to get to here is there needs to be a meeting in the middle because it's a two-way street. The broker needs to believe in the brand, and really believe that this product will actually do well in the store. So I feel there is a really deep um, a moral responsibility from the broker to pick the right brands for the stores that they are pitching to. And I think that's where, if there has been a bad rap in any way, it's been a broker taking on the business, collecting a retainer, getting the product in. They get paid some money, but then the brand fails in that retailer. But the other side to it, right? I'm talking about both sides, is the brand also needs to believe in the broker as well. They trust that the broker has the relationship. Usually the broker has proven themselves, right, with other brands, right? Sean Berg
Right.
has proved himself by getting other brands into Publix. And also Sean Berg is very careful about what brands he selects to get in. He has to really know that it's going to do well for him to spend his, time and resources to get it in, because it's a lose-lose. The broker doesn't get, if
Right.
the product gets discontinued, the broker doesn't get paid anymore and the brand loses money. So I think homework on both sides, make sure it's a fit. And then if the brand believes in the broker, there needs to be something. They need to show something financially to put a stake in the ground and put their money where their mouth is. And so I've worked with brokers where, they do a smaller retainer, whether it's 250 a month, not going to kill your bank account if it's 250. And if a broker has 10 brands, right, at 250, that's $2,500 right there, just without the commissions. That's just, the retainers.
Right.
The other way to do it, which one of my, really good friends who was our broker for a while, is once he gets the meeting with the retailer that he's a specialist at, right? Maybe there's 2 or 3 retailers that they're a specialist at. Once he or she gets the meeting and the meeting's confirmed, and and the broker and the brand will get in front of the buyer, there's a flat payment, a flat fee of $2,000. And then that's it. And then after the meeting, or 1,000, whatever it is. And after the meeting, it might take 4 months, right? Or 6 months to get the product in, to roll it out, and for the brand to start generating revenue, right? To make the product, ship it, get it to the stores. From approval to the first check could be like 3 months, right? 4 months, 5 months. So I like that model too. But at the end of the day, the broker and the brand need to be united, aligned. They need to believe in each other, and they need to meet in the middle. So let's go to that's how I've seen the most successful partnerships work. So there's a lot of questions here. So let's I'm going to scroll up. Lisa, this is from 3:04 p.m. So that's 15 minutes ago. Thinking about Expo West. This is from Lisa Sohanpal. I'm probably pronouncing your name wrong, but let me know. What has been the most innovative way you were able to draw people into a particular booth? So typically, we closed the most amount of business in 2019 with Genius Juice. We had a booth at Expo West. What we did is we had one key person at the booth at all times and another key person on the floor, walking around, catching buyers. But also the founder or the CEO, which, I'm the co-founder, Genius Juice. I also set up meetings in advance. I feel like there's a responsibility to brand owners, to VP of sales, that you need to set these up in advance, because the buyers, we've talked about this countless times. You're mapping out your day, like day one, I'm going to visit my current suppliers, right? I'm going to visit a broker. I have meetings with my team members at store level. You have so many things stacked up that it has to be scheduled. And like, if I run into the global buyer for Whole Foods on the floor and I'm like, hey, do you want to come over to our booth for 25 minutes and talk with us about the product? We'll pour you some samples. There's calendars most likely filled up to the gills for those 2 days. And they're probably just taking a break and walking the floor. But I still feel, that's the best way to draw people in, is set meetings in advance. If you don't have a meeting in advance, have one person walking around, kind of, beelining to the buyers, and catch them when they're not in the meeting. Don't talk to them or interrupt the conversation, and get them to come over to your booth, meet the team, see the booth, get the vibe, try the product. Anything to add on that?
I kind of have mixed feelings about it. I don't disagree with what you said, but obviously I have a different perspective with what I do and what my background is, and for years I did my best to hide my name tag at a show, because I wanted to be able to walk the floor and and stop when I wanted to be stopped, and look at it from a perspective of, I want to have a conversation with you because I'm looking at your booth or your product or something, and I'm interested, and I want to have that conversation based on that, not because, oh, he has 160 stores, I need, what I mean? I wanted it to be more organic, more natural conversation, and not just like a shark in water, because you see a huge account and that's somebody that you want to attack. At the same time, if I only have 4 stores, but my 4 stores do $500,000 a week, I don't want to be passed up by the guy next to me because he has 100 stores, right? So it's just, I wanted to have that natural, organic conversation. For me, I try my best not to schedule meetings for myself, simply because I want to be, unless it's, after the show hours, before the show hours or something like that, because I want that freedom to be able to walk the floor
True.
and
True.
look at things. And that in Expo West specifically is so hard to manage as it is. It's so monstrous. And it depends on the size of your team, right? If you're a VP and you can do those meetings and you have a team that's walking the floor and going around and seeing things, maybe that's okay. But if you're a smaller account where it's your eyes and mouth and hands that are touching and feeling, tasting product, you don't want to be bogged down with meetings. You want to be able to get around and see things because your team, your stores are counting on you to bring back that innovation, right? So I think it's really a double-edged sword. But I think what you refer to, the larger accounts, yeah, any meetings you get set up, I think are beneficial, assuming they are taking meetings for sure.
Yep, exactly. We have a couple more questions to get through and we're running out of time. So we got Scott Glassman related to email outreach. What are characteristics of sample boxes, kits? This is you love this one, right, Wade? That you have, especially when it gets sent out on Thursday to arrive
Yeah.
Friday.
Well,
Found
I
impactful,
was gonna say we'll talk about with Scott. We'll talk about what we talk about all the time, or I talk
right?
about all the time. A couple things. One, um, it in my opinion, it doesn't help to send unsolicited samples. If
Hmm.
you were
Bingo.
to be a fly on the wall in a packaging, the mail room of a larger retailer, and see the amount of product that comes in that is solicited or is requested, you don't want to be that one that's sending something in unsolicited, because it's a lot of work. I mean, it's receiving the package, it's handling the package, getting it up in a larger organization. You have several floors. You might have to take an elevator. It's receiving and handling and unpacking and disposing and all those things of samples. Everybody, you think everybody likes free stuff, and to some extent they do, but at the same time, it can be really overwhelming. And what Alex was
Hmm.
referring to is the big no-no is refrigerated frozen samples that you send in. uh, you have to make sure there's someone that's going to be there to receive the product. I mean, my current environment is a hybrid model, typically working in the office 3 days a week, at home 2 days a week. If you send a sample in that's refrigerated or perishable, frozen, whatever you want to say, and that comes in at the end of business on the day that I'm in office and or the beginning of the day that I'm hybrid, it's sitting there potentially for 4 or 5 days when you count the weekend. And so I think you just really have to make sure, one, that your buyer, category manager, whoever it is, wants the product or sample, and two, ask them when the best day to receive it. I'll flat out tell somebody if they're sending a refrigerator frozen sample, I usually say, shoot to have it there on Tuesday, because that way our in office days are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. That gives me a Wednesday buffer to receive it, and Monday, by chance, if it would get there early or something like that, I always want a little bit of buffer to make sure there's someone there to get it. But I think that's the best advice I can give you, is to make sure that the sample's wanted, and if it's perishable, that it's being shipped when someone's going to be there to receive it. The last thing I would say is, I always say that when you do send a sample, assuming it's solicited or desired, it's a window into your brand, into you as a person, into your product. Spend the extra money to make sure it's packaged right. Don't cheap, don't go cheap on packaging, support bubble, whatever it is, to make sure that it gets there in one piece. Because I'm telling you, if you send, I always use the example of pasta sauce. If you send a case of pasta sauce and one jar is broke, guess what's happened to the other 5 jars or 11 jars if it's a 12 pack? It's going in the trash. Because if you think someone's going to take their time to wash out and try and salvage your product that you ship them, it's not going to happen. It's not going to
Yep.
happen. It's all going in the trash, and you're sending more samples if they want them. So just do your best to do your part from a packaging and shipping standpoint to make sure. You can't control everything, but you certainly can control that package. So
Yeah, exactly. The only other thing I would add is because we get packages here also at CPG Vibes. When I say here, it's a UPS store, not our official corporate office. We don't have the money for that unless we get a lot of sponsorships. Is you know, I've gotten samples where the padding or the packaging is like little strips of paper, like crinkle cut paper, or
the
like
foam
or the
peanuts,
foam peanuts and all that
uh,
crap. Like
uh,
the eco conscious side to it is also very important. Like Wade is saying, it's a window into who you are as a person, as an entrepreneur, and what you're doing to lessen your carbon footprint. Yeah, it's one package, right? Is it gonna, stop the ice from melting in Antarctica? Probably not. But it's a great impression that you're going to give the buyer, the purchasing manager, whoever is
And
receiving the product.
some places won't even accept styrofoam coolers.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Jimbos,
mean,
right?
yes,
I think
yeah.
like no
I don't know if
styrofoam.
they've drawn that line in the sand. I know they were headed in that direction, but
Yeah,
there are places that you have to have sustainable packaging when you send. So
exactly.
that's why do your homework when you're sending
Yeah,
samples. It's just it's going to save you money and potential damaging of relationships in the long run.
exactly. The best packaging that I can recommend for refrigerated is you can the problem is to get it like from Amazon. If you order Uline, it's the box with the styrofoam in it, right? Unfortunately. But if you can order, it's called Green Cell. If you can go to Google Green Cell, and there's also another name, I forget the other competitor, but essentially it's just the box with a foam liner that's basically biodegradable, and then you put ice on, and also put ice on the bottom, product in the middle, ice on the top, and ice on the sides, and then you close the top and make sure it's tight in there, like nothing can really move around. So
Right.
I think the best example that I've seen of packing recently was coconut coal. I have a goal to bring them up somehow, some way, in every podcast episode. I think I'm succeeding with that. But like when I went to pick it up, they packed it for me, and also they just shipped me an LTO, limited time offer, and we're talking very high end yogurt, 6 glass jars going through the holiday hell of
Hmm.
FedEx or UPS. The way they packed that was magnificent. They had the ice, they had the product, they had slots for the jars, so it was insulated. It came ice cold. It was packed so tight that when you shake the box, nothing moves. You know, so these are all things to think of, especially if it's breakable, especially if it's refrigerated. That's why I think this whole conversation, Wade, makes me think that shelf stable non-glass
Right.
you're going to save the most money. Not to say you have to do plastic, but
Right.
anyway, I know we're running over time. There was one other question that I wanted to. I know there's an AI question. We don't have time for that, but I want to answer Gavin's question as well, which is Alex. You're cool going over, Wade, or I know your dinner time's coming up.
I've got 10 minutes. I've got 10
Okay.
minutes, so we're good.
All right. Let's finish in 7. So Gavin Conkle from Cloudwater asks, going into the meeting for a category review, what information would you present to the buyer and how selective were you with retailers? Did you reverse engineer projected revenue broken out by projected velocity? That's interesting. We didn't go that deep. Typically we started with where does the product belong? Where should it go? And I've been vocal about this, that we've made mistakes in the past at Genius Juice going into the wrong accounts, great retailers, but we just weren't ready for them at the time, Publix, some Albertsons regions outside of California where there wasn't a lot of awareness, HEB. So there's a time and place to get into these. So selecting the right retailers is key. We've talked about that. It makes the buyer meetings much better because it's a fit and the buyer knows it's a fit. And this is could be a long answer, which I'll shorten. I like to start any buyer meetings with building the relationship and really finding out as much as possible about the retailer, what the buyer's looking for, and what is trending in their stores, what categories are trending and doing well. Because I want to walk away from that meeting not just, oh yeah, I closed the sale, we're going to get a PO in 2 months. It's, should this product be in the retailer, and is it going to actually sell in the retailer, and is this the right timing? So I think the best salesperson, and we've talked about this, Wade, is just asking questions, knowing more about the retailer, understanding if it's a fit, and also having a great support structure to make sure that the product moves off the shelf. And I think for brands, whether it's Coconut Cult, Genius Juice, belong right now in natural. So kind of just stay in natural. There's 3,000 natural stores, and if you're getting a case per week per SKU in those natural stores, you can build some real good revenue without ever without really touching a single conventional store, at least for the time being.
Yep.
Okay, so we're going to go to stuff we love. How much should brands give brokers to get on shelf? I think we answered that already. All right, so and also making sure you have a marketing plan. Exactly right. So that's Xavier. So let's go into stuff we love here. And Wade, you're prepared. I'm gonna leave it to you.
Well, I wasn't, but I am now. And I might have used this one before, and these guys have been on the show. But this is proof in the pudding. I'm actually buying this stuff, and I ordered it online. And that's our friends at Dano's.
Nice.
They just launched in Publix. This is the cream top, the cheesening, and I believe this is their new. They might have came out with one after this, maybe. But this is the large size I actually got on Amazon. It's a 7 ounce. We use so much of the small size that I can buy locally that I had to upgrade and go to the larger size. So shout out to Tyler and John and Dano himself over there for great product. And yeah, it's in our cupboard and we use it every day, literally every day.
Awesome. Also, make sure to stick around for the next 3 or 4 minutes because there is going to be a prize. Not from Dano's. Yeah, that was in the past. But from Simply Depot, there's going to be a discount on their platform. If you'd like to get their platform for wholesale management and CPG. And also, they're giving away a variety pack of the ginger shots, which is perfect timing, right? For the holidays where everyone gets sick and it's cold out. Their new SKU, the vitamin C probiotic beverage. So stay tuned for that in a couple minutes to win those 2 prizes. Okay, so don't leave just yet. As far as the stuff that I love, have you had this before? Melon?
I have. Absolutely. Watermelon water, right?
Yeah, it's really good.
It is good. And very tasty.
It's shelf stable.
Mm-hmm.
So, it has a little bit of added sugar, but it's less than 1% organic cane sugar. So it's really not a ton of sugar here. It's only 4 grams of added sugar, and then all the rest is natural sugar from the watermelon. So they have this one, they have a passion fruit, and they have a pineapple. And I believe they have a 4th SKU, which I have not gotten that one. But this is their original. It's literally just watermelon juice and vitamin C. So it's really, really good. And they're growing. I think they're definitely in the millions. The other, I finally got this Lenciful.
There you go. Have you had it?
I did have it. Yeah, I had the, it's like a French word. I can't remember what the name was, but it was one of their flavors. But this one is Mexican green chili. I had this one as well. And very, very good. Like, especially I'm a vegetarian.
Right.
It has green bell peppers, shallots, scallions, jalapeno, cilantro, and lime. It has 12 grams of protein, 7 grams of fiber. I filled it. I had one last night. I got home. It was kind of cold out. When I say cold, 62 degrees here in SoCal. And I filled it with hot water, let it sit. To me, this is like something that can compete heavily with all the, the cup of noodle type.
Yeah,
type
absolutely.
Stuff,
So did you order it online?
No. So Ben, right? Ben, the owner.
The owner, Ben Bacon. Yep.
Ben Bacon. It's funny. It's bacon, but it's vegetarian.
Yep.
It's funny coincidence, irony, I should say. So you mentioned Lenciful on the last episode, and he talked about it. And then Ben, to thank us, he messaged me and said, "I would like to send you a variety pack for mentioning us on your show."
Nice.
I love this guy.
He's a good guy.
Such a good guy. Like I could even feel it through LinkedIn. I'm like, I've never talked to him, but
he's great.
He's just a great individual. And he also won the Nosh Pitch Slam, right?
Yep.
So I see this going places, and I'm going to talk with Ben and get more, understanding about what he wants to do with the brand and how he's growing it and all that good stuff. So
excellent.
So that's stuff we love. Let's get into our next segment, which is Friday Freebies.
Friday Freebies.
All right. So as mentioned, we have, we're going to talk about our permanent ongoing sponsor and also Simply Depot, this week's sponsor. So let's go into V Driven first, shall we?
Yeah.
So Luke Abbott, He's been posting a lot. He's like, CPG, slow month in December? No, it's not slow. I'm on planes. I'm having meetings. I'm doing networking. I'm on a boat. I don't know if he was on the boat, but
He was on the boat.
he was on the boat. I figured.
Yep.
I just assumed he was there because
Yep.
it's Luke Abbott. So V Driven is a CPG partner for emerging purpose-driven brands. They basically help young and emerging CPG brands to get on shelf. They have relationships with buyers. They do accounting for you. They do trade spend deduction management for you. So they fight all those pesky deductions, which some of them are not correct, and you have to fight and get your money back, right? So you can run your business. So they do all these things, and they have a great leadership team of several experienced individuals in CPG. They're very affordable too, like compared to a lot of other master sales organizations. Really affordable. They offer a slew of services. Genius Juice is a client right now of V Driven as well. So that's vdriven.com. And you can reach Luke Abbott, LUKE.ABBOTT at vdriven.com. And then you want to take this one again for the this week's sponsor?
Yeah, I can do that. You know what? I just closed my window with what the prize was. 1 second.
Okay,
That was
I can do it.
not. 1 second.
You'll
I've
get
got
there.
it. I've got it.
Okay.
I've got it.
That was
Here it
fast.
is.
Fast. Yeah.
I thought I had it. Let's see. Master sheet. Here we go. All right. Yeah,
Tap dancing.
we
Tap
do
dancing.
have a master sheet. So this is Simply Depot, and Simply Depot is the platform created by a CPG entrepreneur for CPG entrepreneurs. It's a wholesale and field execution management platform that provides everything you need to run your business from A to Z. So they're giving away a 75% discount for 10 months on their platform. So the normal price would be $300 a month, which would be $3,000. So with this discount, you would save. You'd get it for $750, saving $2,250. So you're getting $750 for 10 months on their platform. So that's pretty substantial. A 75% discount. Additionally, they're going to send a wellness kit from their partner and customer, Ginger, which will include a variety of ginger shots, and their newest SKU, which is the vitamin C probiotic beverage. So that's Simply Depot, and I'm looking at a different screen there. I think you put it up there. I put the link up to Simply Depot earlier. I'll put that in again.
Sure.
And then we'll put Ginger Labs as well, because that's the immediate price. Even if you don't take advantage of that huge 75% discount, you'll at least get the Ginger Labs. So there's that information for you there.
Cool. Yeah, and I think this is what's interesting about this episode is I'm looking at the counter of people that are tuning in, and it's been almost exactly the same from the start to the finish, which is good. We didn't have a lot of drop off. And people are tuning in for the entire. I mean, I think what happened is the people that were on, they all dropped off, and a new set of people, the same exact amount, they came on.
There you go.
This happened 4 times. I'm just kidding.
I like it. I like
Thank
it.
you. Thank you for your loyalty to the CPG community. It means we're doing something right.
Did you come up with a question?
I did not. So I was. Can I? Maybe what I can do is, this is the first, is I can ask a question about an event going on, something going on that we didn't mention it in the show, but it's something that's going on.
Okay.
So this will be kind of a tester. There's a golf tournament going on this weekend. What is it? PGA tournament. I didn't want to make it just there's a sports event. That's too broad. So what is the golf event going on this weekend? Just name. It's been in the news quite a lot because of who's playing and all that.
See who the fastest Googler is out there, right?
Yeah, or the fastest golfer.
There you go.
I would crack open this Mela, but I just had one on the way. It's very hydrating. Very hydrating. It's awesome.
Thank you, John. Appreciate that.
All right. What is to win the Ginger Labs, a variety pack of their vitamin C boost shot, and also an enormous discount on their wholesale software from Simply Depot. What is the golf tournament going on this weekend in Florida? Where else, right? Half the tournaments are either in Florida or upstate New York or something, and then in LA. Wow. Does no one know the answer? You can literally, we might have to.
I know it. I know because I Googled it. Come on.
Yeah. All you guys got to do is open that tab, type it in, Chrome, Safari. There it is. Got DNC. So 3 letters. All you had to do is type in 3 letters and you would get the answer. So Tiger Woods, it's a father-son scramble. So Tiger Woods and his son Charlie Woods, they are playing tomorrow. Starts tomorrow. All right. So Julie, make sure to email cpgvibes100@gmail.com, and we shall take care of you. Wade, what are you doing this weekend? And we'll end the show after. Share that.
Getting something to eat and laying low, and maybe doing a little bit of Christmas shopping, whether online or otherwise. So
cool. For me, going golfing, surprise, surprise, at Industry Hills tomorrow morning, and spending time with my wife and son and family this weekend, and not traveling, just having fun. That's it. So, all right. So everyone, take good care. Make sure to give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. Again, if you'd like to sponsor our show, cpgvibes100@gmail.com. We're basically booked up for December. We have a couple open in January. So make sure to reach out to us for that. And we will have a show next week, December 22nd at 2:30 p.m., 5:30 Eastern. So take care, everyone. Wade, love you, buddy. Have a wonderful weekend.
Everybody, take care.